Welcome to GESARA for Dummies. Let's look at today's news from Professor William Liebenberg, prepared by Martin Stein. Please like, share, and subscribe. Join our Telegram group in the comments below. Thank you. Let's go.
Iraq dinar and RV.
What are we looking for at this point for the dinar to RV? Basel III Endgame, July 1st. BRICS Summit, 6 to 7 July. Project Sandman for fiat dollar collapse initiation. Trump's tariffs end, July 9th. ISO 2022, July 14th. FedWire, July 14th. Genius Act, July House. Clarity Act, July House. Cryptocurrencies Regulations Report, July 22nd. Iraq WTO 4th and final meeting, July. Dinar Rate and Government Gazette, July. Iraq refund US $36 billion, July. Ripple versus SEC case, July, August 15th, latest. Peace in the Middle East, July. Iraq to Turkey oil pipeline opened, July. Currencies rise, adjustments, July. Gold rise for RV, July. July is going to be an interesting month.
U.S. debt.
The U.S. national debt surpasses $37 trillion, debt clock show, a new record. The U.S. now pays $3.3 billion per day in interest, making it its second largest federal expense, per report. Currently, 1/4 of all U.S. government revenue is spent on servicing the national debt. Despite promises of fiscal discipline, the pace of borrowing under Trump has not slowed. Trump's plan to cripple the cabal? The bankrupt cabal US Inc. continues to take on debt. Coinbase CEO says, "The world needs crypto, now more than ever." Debt is growing exponentially. Inflation is crippling entire nations. Economic freedom is declining. It's time to increase economic freedom globally with crypto.
The GESARA law.
Jewish Professor Jeffrey Sachs from Harvard University states Israel's foreign policy requires 7 wars in 5 years.
As an American Jew, I have no sympathy for Israel's policies at all. I find them disgusting because they have prevented peace. In 2001, the so-called neocons, who are also the so-called Zionist part of the U.S. government, produced a document that called for 7 wars in the Middle East in 5 years after 2001. And those 7 wars were to take out Israel's enemies. And those 7 wars were Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Somalia, Libya, Sudan, and Iran. And there have been 6 of those wars fought on Israel's behalf. And Israel is pushing for war with Iran.
Putin repeatedly informed Israel there's no evidence Iran is seeking nuclear weapons. Iran has the right to use nuclear energy for peaceful purposes, and we're ready to support it. The nuclear threat narrative is just the propaganda vehicle. It's the same one they used in Iraq, but never did weapons of mass destruction ever existed. We have Israel and nobody knows what that's about. We're going to find out soon, I guess. President Trump. The truth of Israel is getting ready to go mainstream. Listen to Trump. He tells us everything. You just have to know how to listen to him, he always tells us.
A couple of big ones. We have Russia-Ukraine, which is making a little bit of progress. And we have Israel, and nobody really knows what that one is all about. We're going to find out pretty soon, I guess.
Vice President J.D. Vance says the U.S. should avoid war with Iran, suggesting Israel is trying to drag it in. Israel pre-planned war-gamed Iran strikes with Biden admin, Jerusalem Post. Shockingly, artificial intelligence confirms Professor Jeffrey Sachs's remarks of 7 wars in 5 years as per Israel's foreign policies.
What is the real reason behind Israel-Iran conflict?
The clash between Israel and Iran is not just about missiles, uranium, or territory. It is part of a grander scripted performance, decades in the making, engineered to fracture global balance and push the world closer to a new order. What you've been shown is a reaction, but the real story lies in who orchestrated the tension and why now. In the last few days, Israel launched a massive preemptive strike on Iranian military and nuclear sites. Dozens of scientists and commanders eliminated, entire facilities destroyed. Iran retaliated with missiles and drones, many intercepted, some causing damage. But this isn't just a regional spat. This was ritual warfare, a pre-chosen point in the timeline where certain chess pieces were moved to provoke a bigger collapse. This strike wasn't sudden. It was scheduled, engineered, permitted. Israel didn't just act out of self-defense. The deeper mission was to disrupt Iran's growing alignment with China, Russia, and the BRICS bloc, sabotage Iran's attempt to shift oil sales away from the US dollar, and send a message to the rest of the Middle East. You either follow the Western system or you burn. Meanwhile, Iran's retaliation wasn't reckless rage. It was a calculated countermove, testing defenses, gauging responses, and showing the world it will not bow without response. The elites need global destabilization to justify centralization. One digital currency, one defense system, one global authority. To birth a new world order, they must first break the old one. What better way than triggering chaos in the most sensitive energy region on Earth, drawing in powers like China, Russia, and NATO into pressure postures, and pushing oil prices sky high, crashing economies, and blaming war instead of manipulation. The Israel-Iran war is the ignition point, not the fire. It's the start of a series of flashpoints, coordinated to make the world beg for solutions to the chaos the system created. Will this become WW3? Not immediately. But it could, and that's the plan. Expect more proxy wars, cyber attacks blamed on foreign enemies, food chain disruptions, and emergency summits. The goal: to erode borders, control narratives, and usher in the peacekeeper system, centralized digital authority disguised as safety. This isn't random. It's ritual, and you were never meant to see it unfold. But now you do. And when enough of us wake up, we reclaim our role, not as pawns, but as builders of a new reality rooted in truth, sovereignty, and light. They move in shadows, but you are the signal they couldn't silence.
Like and share to spread the truth. Also, make sure you follow me on Instagram and Facebook.
Due to these attacks, an Iranian official says Iran now has a legal right to withdraw from the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. The real reason for the war with Iran has nothing to do with uranium enrichment. It's about a very different kind of enrichment. They keep telling us this war is about Iran's nuclear ambitions, but if you've been paying attention, you know that's just the cover story. This war isn't about bombs, it's about banks. Iran is one of the last sovereign nations that hasn't been absorbed into the Western-led financial system. It has its own central bank, it doesn't bow to the IMF or World Bank, it doesn't allow full-spectrum financial penetration from the likes of BlackRock, Vanguard, or JP Morgan. That makes it a problem for the globalist banksters. Iran never gave up full control of its monetary policy, energy sector, or capital markets. It's one of the few remaining holdouts from the era before neoliberal globalization became gospel. That's the real threat! This is what Washington, London, and Tel Aviv can't tolerate. Not because Iran is strong militarily, but because it's economically disobedient. Q Military Intelligence Post, 1454. Nothing to do with nukes. Cover. The nuclear threat narrative is just the propaganda vehicle.
Banks in the economy.
The pressure is building on the Federal Reserve now. People act as if the Fed is some underdog. What a joke. This unelected body controls the fate of millions of Americans, and its decisions echo throughout the entire economy. I will forever cherish my conversation with Ron Paul. He highlighted this fact long before I was even born. Ron spoke about his exchange with the former Federal Reserve Chairman, with Ben Bernanke, who argues gold is not money.
Do you think this administration could finally remonetize gold, either through a gold-backed treasury instrument, as my friend Judy Shelton suggests, or by simply marking it to market at $2,900 an ounce on the balance sheet?
Yeah, it should be. The gold should be returned to the people. One day I asked Bernanke in committee, I said, is gold money?
Do you think gold is money?
No.
It's not money. Even if it had been money for 6,000 years, somebody reversed that and eliminated that economic law.
Well, it's an asset. I mean, it's the same. Would you say Treasury bills are money? I don't think they're money either, but they're a financial asset.
Why do central banks hold it?
Well, it's a form of reserves.
Why don't they hold diamonds?
Well, it's tradition, long-term tradition.
Well, some people still think it's money. I yield back. My time is up.
And he paused. He said, no.
And I said, well, why does the central bank own it? And right now, why are they buying it if it's not money? No, and the founders understood this. They had the problems with the continental dollar and runaway inflation. The evidence is so strong that it's amazing that they have to get around it, but that serves a special interest. It doesn't serve the interest of the common person, middle class, or the poor, which is always the reason why, well, we don't have quite enough money. We need to print the money. It won't crash anything now, even though later on it might. So they do that as a political stunt, but it gets caught up because I started getting interested in this subject in the 60s. And in the 60s, there was warnings by the good economists, watch out, this $35 an ounce that Bretton Woods is guaranteeing, they can't do it. They're printing and printing and printing. So I really watched that. So the day that was really, really hit me, because I expected it and knew it, but it still was so shocking, August 15th, 1971, because they just said, no, we're broke. Our money's no good. We don't honor the money anymore. We had already taken it from the American people. Now we're taking it away from the very significant right of foreigners who held dollars that we won't ever reimburse them with gold. And that was a big issue. And I, didn't know exactly what would happen, but it ushered in a new age. The new age and the modern age now of monetary policy, and why we're here is the fact that it was declared in 1971 that we no longer would do it. There are no restraints on spending and deficits, and both parties would be involved, and both parties are, and that would give license to more and more wars, and it would give license to runaway welfare. It would give license to those who could become corrupt in the Justice Department, and also run a system where the people, suffer the consequences of the people in charge. And we've seen all of that, but it's coming to a climax. And if it weren't so bad, it could be exciting. It fascinates me the way it's going. But even when gold hits $3,000, it's still got to shake my head. $3,000, even though if you would have asked me that in 1971, I would say, yeah, could. Can you get much higher? And I still say that. But when it happens, it's a bit shocking. It actually did go up that much. The current system is over. Something has to happen. But a lot of people say, well, when's that going to happen? I better adjust my way. I just assume it could be any time. And every day we're one day closer to it. But I don't think it is going to be tomorrow. I think we're going to have still a lot of this price inflation going up and a lot of more trouble within our country, because a system like this causes a maldistribution of wealth. The wealthy gets wealthier, they get wealthier, and the poor get poorer. The middle class gets wiped out, and that's where we are. And yet the middle class has been so conditioned by the economic system and the education system. What do the average housewife people say? They'll come to my office and say, we need money. We need you to send me money, send me a check. Of course, that money out of thin air is what the problem really is. It's distortion, and the tragedy, the political tragedy, is the rich get richer.
Jerome Powell leaves interest rates unchanged. This will be the straw that breaks the proverbial camel's back. I suspect Trump will move to fire him now for cause, as similar reserve banks around the world have been lowering interest rates. This is about Jerome knowingly interfering with the economy to stunt its growth to keep Trump from getting the credit he deserves on the economic front. For cause typically implies serious misconduct such as malfeasance, gross negligence, or criminal behavior, not mere policy disagreements. President Trump threatens to fire Fed Chair Jerome Powell, calling him a dumb guy and a Trump hater.
I don't know why the Fed board doesn't override this total and complete moron. Maybe I'll have to change my mind about firing him.
President Trump says, am I allowed to appoint myself head of the Fed? I do a much better job than Powell. Congressman Thomas Massey calls to end the Federal Reserve.
Payment systems.
Crypto czar David Sachs says crypto bill is very close. The reason why the XRP versus SEC case is delayed. XRP is not a meme coin. XRP is the infrastructure, the rails. XRP isn't just in the game, XRP is the headline.
The government is doing this to try to steal your crypto. XRP jumped 10% when the SEC dropped part of the case. But here's the catch. Judge Torres didn't drop it all. Why? Because something much bigger is at play here, and they don't want you to see it. Under Trump 2024, crypto is getting love. Coinbase, Kraken, all cases we've seen get dismissed with the SEC, Ripple, part win. But the full case, it's still dragging. Torres is stalling. And not because of some procedure. This smells like a coordinated delay. Here's what they're not telling you. Ripple is not just fighting for XRP. They're fighting to unlock a new global payment standard. XRP is not a meme coin. It's infrastructure. Once the SEC steps aside and regulations drop, this thing will take off like nothing we've ever seen. XRP has already been tested for cross-border payments. US, Europe, Asia. XRP won't just be $3. It's going to 10x, 50x, or more. And you'll wish you loaded up before the switch flipped, kind of like Bitcoin. The judge, the SEC, even Ripple, they all know what's coming. This slow rollout, it's not incompetence, it's intentional. They're stalling the inevitable, because once XRP is free, the whole system is changed. Forever. Rant over. But when the banks start buying bags and XRP is lighting up every global payment system, just remember, some of us are paying attention while they've been playing these games. Smash that like if you're still Team XRP and leave your thoughts in the comments. Are you tripping out? Are you selling your bag? Peace.
The tsunami is coming. They cannot delay XRP any longer.
For over 5 years, they have stalled the inevitable. Distracted retail, choking liquidity, and keeping real players like Ripple, Stellar, and R3 locked behind regulatory fog. But that fog's about to lift. The SEC's hands weakening, all the lawsuits are wrapping up, and the ETFs are being greenlit. This isn't about hype anymore. This is about who controls the plumbing of the new financial system. When regulatory clarity finally hits, the markets won't just move. It'll be rewired overnight. Institutions aren't coming. They're already here, waiting on compliance to green light. All of this. BlackRock isn't filing XRP-related patents for fun. The IMF isn't dropping Stellar and Ripple because they like the logos. This is a coordinated shift into a tokenized future, and the ISO 20022 assets are the keys to the vault. The moment compliance is official, billions in sideline capital will rush into utility-first protocols. We're not talking meme coin pumps. We're talking global infrastructure adoption. And when that liquidity floodgate finally opens, it's too late to reposition. You're either on the inside of the next monetary system or you're stuck watching it through the glass. The real ones have been preparing. Everyone else is going to chase the narrative after it's already left the station. You want to be early? You want to be early. ChadSarton.com. Book your strategy call. Download your guides. Learn what's really coming before it hits.
Show us some love by liking our videos and leave us a short comment on your